In the silent darkness of sleep, a spark ignites. You breathe in, and suddenly you smell smoke that isn't there. You taste something sweet, metallic, or strangely familiar, even though your mouth is still and dry in the real world. Then pain flashes across your dream body, sharp, burning, or lingering, yet your physical form lies untouched beneath the blankets. How is this possible? How can the brain make you feel sensations that do not exist? How can a dream smell like rain on concrete, taste like childhood, or hurt like a memory you never lived? This is not ordinary dreaming. This is the hidden realm where the senses awaken without the world, where the mind becomes its own instrument of perception. Tonight, we explore one of the rarest and most haunting phenomena in the science of sleep. Why do some people experience smell, taste, and even physical pain inside their dreams? These sensations are so vivid that the dreamer wakes up believing they were real, because in a way they were. In the depths of REM, the brain does not just create images, it recreates entire sensory worlds, rewriting the rules of reality from the inside out. Smell, taste, pain. 3 sensations we trust to anchor us to waking life, yet in dreams they become clues pointing toward the deepest workings of the human mind. Prepare to enter the sensory labyrinth of the sleeping brain, where nothing exists and yet everything is felt. Most dreams unfold through sight and sound, the 2 senses the brain reconstructs with the greatest ease. But for a minority of dreamers, something far more intriguing happens. They smell aromas that never existed, taste flavors their bodies are not consuming, and feel pain without any physical injury occurring in the real world. This raises profound questions. Why does the mind generate fully immersive sensory experiences when the body is completely disconnected from the external environment? Why can a dream trigger the taste of strawberry cake, the sting of a needle, or the smell of burning wood? And why do these sensations sometimes feel even stronger than they do in waking life? To understand the phenomenon, we must acknowledge that dreaming is not a simple replay of memory. It is an active simulation system, a cognitive theater where emotion, memory, expectation, and neural activation blend into a self-generated reality. When the sensory gates of the brain open inside a dream, the experience can be startlingly authentic. Smell, olfaction, taste, gustation, and pain, nociception, are some of the most primal sensory pathways we possess. Unlike vision, which processes complex external stimuli, these senses are deeply tied to memory, emotion, and survival. This is why the scent of something imagined can evoke past experiences, why a phantom flavor can trigger nostalgia, and why dream pain can feel symbolic, psychological, or even cleansing. But these sensations do not occur in every dreamer. They tend to appear in individuals with heightened emotional vividness, strong sensory memory, high dream recall, or a sensitivity to embodied experiences. Sometimes they emerge during nightmares. Other times, in ordinary dreams filled with small details. Smell, taste, and pain can signal deeper emotional processing, or simply the brain accessing sensory circuits, usually dormant during sleep. This phenomenon is important for dream science because it reveals one fundamental truth. Your brain doesn't need the outside world to produce reality. It can generate sensations from within, activating neural structures so convincingly that your mind cannot distinguish dream from waking. The boundary between the physical and the imagined dissolves. Throughout this video, we will explore how psychology explains sensory dreaming, how the brain produces these phantom sensations, and what scientific studies reveal about their meaning. Because when you smell smoke, taste sweetness, or feel pain inside a dream, you are experiencing a level of immersion that exposes the deepest capabilities of the sleeping mind. To understand why smell, taste, and pain can appear in dreams, we must look beyond neuroscience and step into the psychological architecture that constructs the dream world. Dreams are not mere hallucinations. They are emotional simulations. And in these simulations, the brain does not simply show you images, it makes you feel. At the psychological level, Sensory dreaming emerges from the way the mind translates unconscious content into symbolic experiences. When sight and sound are not enough to express an emotion, the dream uses the language of the body. It evokes scent, flavor, or pain to convey something deeper, something the conscious mind may be unwilling or unprepared to face. 1. Smell, the emotional memory gate. Smell is the most ancient of the senses, tied directly to the limbic system, the emotional core of the brain. In dreams, scent often appears when the mind is processing powerful implicit memories. A dreamer may smell their childhood home, an ex-partner's perfume, or the scent of rain during a meaningful moment, yet these memories arise not as images, but as visceral emotional cues. Psychologically, dream smells often represent nostalgia or longing, buried emotional associations, signals of inner danger or unresolved tension, a symbolic atmosphere that reflects the dream's mood. Even when the scent has no waking life reference, like smoke, flowers, or unknown chemicals, it often mirrors an internal state, a fear or a transition the psyche is navigating. 2. Taste, emotional interpretation, and symbolic ingestion. Dream taste is rarer, appearing in people who process emotions through bodily experience. Taste in dreams can symbolize acceptance, rejection, satisfaction, disgust, or emotional nourishment. It is the mind's metaphorical way of asking, "What are you taking in?" A sweet taste may reflect desire, comfort, or yearning. A bitter or metallic taste may reflect stress, avoidance, or emotional conflict. Food-related dreams often signal psychological hunger, not for nutrients, but for connection, meaning, or closure. Taste becomes the medium through which the psyche communicates the emotional flavor of your internal world. 3. Pain, the embodied shadow dream. Pain is the most intriguing and misunderstood of all sensory experiences. Psychological theory suggests that dream pain often emerges when emotional suffering becomes so intense that the mind externalizes it physically. In this way, pain becomes a symbol, an embodied signal of internal turmoil. Dream pain may represent unresolved trauma resurfacing, emotional suppression, seeking expression, guilt, fear, or self-criticism, taking physical form, inner conflict between desire and restraint. Psychological thresholds or transformations. For some dreamers, pain becomes a narrative device, an event that shifts the story, forces an awakening, or reveals the emotional truth behind the dream. But most importantly, dream pain is rarely literal. It is symbolic embodiment, a way for your mind to process something you have not yet confronted consciously. 4. Why some people experience sensory dreams more intensely. Psychologically, sensory dreams occur more frequently in individuals who have strong emotional awareness, possess vivid sensory memory, suppress intense feelings during waking life, are highly imaginative or intuitive experience. Frequent nightmares or lucid dreams have trauma history or heightened interoception, awareness of bodily states. The more emotionally expressive or psychologically complex a person is, the more likely their brain is to speak through sensory detail. Ultimately, when you feel smell, taste, or pain in dreams, your psyche is not playing with illusions. It's communicating with you through the deepest sensory languages it knows. To understand why smell, taste, and even pain can arise inside a dream, we need to descend into the neural architecture of sleep. What you experience during these moments is not supernatural. It is the brain operating with its sensory circuits unlocked, unbound by the rules of the waking world. The key lies in REM sleep, the stage where most vivid dreaming occurs. During REM, the brain enters a paradoxical state. The body is paralyzed, yet the brain becomes electrically active, sometimes even more active than during wakefulness. This creates a unique condition where sensory regions of the brain can be stimulated purely from internal signals without any external input. 1. Smell. Olfactory cortex activation. The olfactory system is deeply tied to memory and emotion. Surprisingly, during REM sleep, The piriform cortex and associated olfactory areas can spontaneously activate. Although the nose is not detecting real odors, the brain is capable of reconstructing scent from memory fragments or emotional associations. Because smell has a direct primal connection to the limbic system, even tiny bursts of activity can create incredibly vivid olfactory hallucinations. This is why a dream scent can feel startlingly authentic. Your brain is firing the same pathways it uses when you smell something in the real world. Second, taste, gustatory cortex and memory simulation. Taste sensations arise when the gustatory cortex activates alongside multisensory integration areas in the insula. The brain is effectively simulating flavor by reactivating memory traces related to eating. Neuroscientists believe taste in dreams occurs through two processes: top-down activation, where the brain imagines taste and the cortex responds as if receiving real input, cross-modal stimulation, where emotional memories trigger gustatory networks. Since taste is tied to reward and survival mechanisms, the brain can generate vivid gustatory experiences even without a physical stimulus. 3. Pain, nociceptive circuits. Without injury, pain in dreams is perhaps the most surprising of all. To feel pain, the body typically sends signals through nociceptors to the brain. But in dreams, this loop is bypassed. Instead, internal brain activity directly stimulates the somatosensory cortex and anterior cingulate cortex, regions that interpret and assign emotional meaning to pain. In other words, you can feel pain without any external cause because the brain can create pain from the inside. Studies show that during nightmares or emotionally intense REM episodes, the circuits responsible for threat detection and distress, particularly the amygdala, activate strongly. This activation can spill into bodily perception areas, generating sensations interpreted as pressure, burning, stabbing, or impact. 4. Why not everyone feels sensory dreams? Neuroimaging studies reveal that sensory dreams occur more often in people whose sensory cortices remain unusually active during REM. In most individuals, these regions quiet down, leaving dreams primarily visual and auditory. But for others, memory, emotion, and sensory systems become cross-wired, generating deeply immersive experiences. 5. The brain's internal reality engine. Ultimately, sensory dreaming reveals a fundamental truth. The brain does not need the external world to create reality. By activating the same neural circuits used in waking perception, the brain manufactures sensory experiences that are indistinguishable from real ones. Smell, taste, pain, these are not illusions within dreams. They are perceptions without external input, produced by the same biological mechanisms that govern waking consciousness. And this shows us how powerful and how autonomous the dreaming brain truly is. The sensory dimensions of dreaming, smell, taste, and pain, have fascinated researchers for decades. Although these sensations are less common than visual or auditory dream content, they are far from rare, and several real studies reveal just how complex and deeply rooted these experiences can be. One of the earliest systematic investigations came from the Sleep Research Laboratory at the University of Montreal, where researchers collected thousands of REM dream reports. Their findings were surprising. Nearly 30% of participants reported at least one dream involving smell, taste, or physical pain. Although brief, these sensations were often described as startlingly vivid, sometimes even more intense than waking perception. In 1998, sleep scientist Mark Solms conducted an influential study on dream mechanisms involving patients with brain injuries. He discovered that individuals whose parietal and temporal sensory regions remained highly active during sleep were more likely to report tactile and painful dream experiences. Those with lesions in these areas tended to lose sensory dreams entirely. This provided strong evidence that pain in dreams arises from internal cortical activation, not external signals. A more modern experiment from the University of Heidelberg focused specifically on dream pain. Participants were awakened during REM and asked to describe any sensations. Some experienced burning, pressure, cuts, or impact without any correlating physical condition. fMRI scans revealed increased activation in the anterior cingulate cortex, a region involved in emotional interpretation of pain. This showed that dream pain is not simply imagined. It is processed using the same neural pathways responsible for suffering in waking life. Smell and taste have been studied less frequently, but some cases stand out. In a 2014 study by the University of Copenhagen, researchers cataloged dream reports involving olfactory perception. The most common smells were smoke, perfume, food aromas, and natural scents such as rain or forests. Interestingly, many participants who dreamed of smell were those with heightened scent sensitivity while awake. Their brains were more likely to spontaneously activate the piriform cortex during REM, producing phantom odors that felt shockingly real. Taste appears most often in dreams involving emotional memory. In one documented case published in the journal Dreaming, a patient repeatedly tasted metal in dreams during a period of intense stress and anxiety. When the stress resolved, the gustatory dreams disappeared entirely. Clinicians proposed that the metallic flavor was a symbolic expression of emotional overload, transformed into sensory form through REM activation of the gustatory cortex. There are also extraordinary anecdotal accounts. One lucid dreamer reported being able to deliberately taste foods with astonishing realism: fresh bread, citrus fruit, chocolate, despite no physical eating occurring. Lucidity researchers believe this arises from selective activation of sensory cortices, enhanced by conscious control during REM sleep. Another striking case involved a woman who repeatedly smelled smoke in her dreams, only later discovering that this dream odor often preceded episodes of nighttime panic attacks. Her brain was likely triggering olfactory hallucinations as an early warning signal of physiological arousal. Together, these studies reveal a profound truth. The sensory world inside a dream is built from the same neural engines that shape waking perception. When a dream activates these circuits deeply enough, the brain generates a reality indistinguishable from life itself. Smell, taste, and pain in dreams are not glitches in the system. They are windows into the full power of the human sensory brain, even when the body lies still in the quiet dark. In the quiet hours of sleep, when consciousness loosens its grip and the world fades into shadow, something extraordinary happens. The senses awaken without ever touching reality. You smell what isn't there. You taste what your body never consumed. You feel pain that leaves no mark. These sensations, impossible yet undeniable, remind us of a truth we often overlook: that the mind creates its own universe the moment the eyes close. What we experience in dreams is not illusion. It is the brain revealing its raw creative power, freed from the constraints of the physical world. When you sense smoke in a dream, it isn't your nose, it's your memory. When sweetness blooms on your tongue, it is your emotions taking flavor. And when you feel pain, it is your psyche translating inner conflict into physical form, giving shape to something you may not yet have words for. Sensory dreams blur the line between body and mind. They show us that perception is not anchored in the external world, it is generated from within. That reality is not only what we touch, but also what we imagine, what we fear, and what we long for. In dreams, your brain builds worlds that feel alive because in many ways, they are alive. They are made of your memories, your emotions, your hidden stories, your unresolved chapters. And perhaps that is the most beautiful and unsettling part. Dream sensations reveal the parts of you that remain silent during the day. The scents of forgotten places, the tastes of old joys or old grief, the pains you carry without noticing. Night after night, your mind whispers through these sensations, inviting you to explore what lies beneath the surface of your waking self. So the next time you wake up remembering the smell of rain, the sting of a wound that never existed, or the flavor of something hauntingly familiar, pause for a moment. The dream was not only showing you a world, it was showing you. It was offering you a glimpse into the vast, intricate, and sensory universe within your own mind. Dreams do not imitate life. They expand it. And in the darkness of sleep, your senses become the storytellers of your inner world. Free, untethered, and beautifully real.